Good morning. Welcome back. Today I'm going to do a story that was written by Penny. So hold on to your bootstraps because it's going to be a good one. The name of the story is How Mama's Catering Nearly Killed Eloise. The summer of my 6th year, Mama and her mother, my Nana, had started what she told me was a catering business. To me, this just meant that Nana would arrive in the morning and we would be sent outside to play as soon as breakfast was over, and then we would get dressed. At times, I would go in for a drink of water and find them furiously working in the kitchen. Every counter would be covered with bowls, cookie sheets, sifters, etc. Seemed like one of them was always cutting the crust off bread. I really found that odd because Mama always told us to be sure and eat the crust. I hated the crust. We ate our lunches on the side porch those days. Leola would bring it out to us. Baba and Ann always had peanut butter and jelly. Yuck! I couldn't stand either one, so I had bologna and cheese. By early afternoon, when going upstairs to our bathroom, the dining room table would start filling up with an assortment of food. There would be hors d'oeuvres, trays of sandwiches cut into really pretty little triangles, no crust. Large jars that I would later learn were soup, vichyssoise, cucumber soup, etc. Cakes, cookies, and goodness, I'm not sure what all. I only knew that our large table would be covered from one end to the other and we were not to touch a thing on it. Later, Mama would back the station wagon down our driveway, park it in the front of the house, and she and Nana would make the many trips from the dining room to the car until every last bit was loaded. Baba and I would stand on the coping and wave goodbye. Leola would be inside cleaning up that awful mess in the kitchen, and Mama would be so tired when she got home. Whatever this business was, I sure didn't see any fun in it. This particular catering day, Ann had spent the night out and Baba had been invited over to a friend's house to play. I'd played jacks, ridden my little red scooter, and gone upstairs to talk to Leola. She was ironing and not her usual happy self. Baba and I had heard Daddy telling Mama she was having trouble with that scoundrel. We really didn't know what that meant, but we knew it followed with the name Scatty. We knew Scatty. We'd never talked to him, but on occasion Daddy would drive Leola home and he'd be sitting on the porch on the house up on the hill. Usually Leola took the yellow cab home. It was my job to call. I'd sit at the phone table and dial 0. The operator would answer and say, "May I help you?" I'd reply, "Yes, ma'am. Could you please send a yellow cab to 206 Linton Avenue going down Madison?" Sometimes I'd forget after Linton Avenue and she would finish the line for me. Ours was a small town and everybody knew everybody. So I was at a loss as what to do. Hopscotch? No, that's not fun by yourself. Lunch was over and I sat on the steps by Daddy's studio. Mom and Nana were bringing the food in and placing it on the dining room table. They didn't see me. On one of their trips back to the kitchen, I ran over and grabbed a cookie and took a big bite. Gross! It had pecans in it. I despised anything with pecans. I was spitting it out into my hands when Mom and Nana walked back into the room. Uh-oh. I froze, the evidence drooling out of my mouth and in my hands. Mama put her food down. That eyebrow shot up. "Pendleton Hyde Coleman in the kitchen now, young lady." Oh no, the eyebrow and my whole name. I didn't dare look at Nana as I followed Mama to the kitchen, still trying to get the rest of that cookie out of my mouth. She pulled out the trash can. "Wipe your hands off," pulling a small stool to the sink. "Now get over here and wash your hands." What were you thinking? How many times have I told you girls you're not to come in here while Mother and I are working, much less touch the food? She handed me a towel to dry my hands. "I'm so disappointed in you, Penny. Now you go outside and don't you dare come back into this house until I call you. Do you understand me?" Shifting from one foot to the other, I barely whispered, "Yes, ma'am." Holding the back screen door open in a very stern voice, she said, "If you come back in this house one more time, I will turn you over my knee and wear you out." A good swat on my rear told me she meant it. During that time, it was perfectly acceptable to spank your children, and I got more than my share. I sat on the back porch steps, feeling good and sorry for myself. Maybe I'd run away from home, then they'd all be sorry. About then, I heard a car next door. Maybe it was Bobby coming home. Standing up, I looked at the top of the driveway. Nope, it was Eloise. She stopped her car about 10 feet before the driveway started its steep decline to the garage, way down at the bottom. She got out, her purse over one arm, and shut the door. About the same time she rounded the back of the car, it started to roll. By the time she reached the driver's door, frantically trying to open the door, her car was at the top of that long, steep decline. At barely 6, I knew this wasn't going to end well and covered my face, peeking through my fingers. The door was now wide open and Eloise was holding onto the handle as the car started downhill. My young mind was screaming, "Let go, Eloise, please let go of that door." The car seemed to move in slow motion and I could no longer tell if Eloise had a grip on the car or if the car had a grip on Eloise. At the bottom of the hill, it veered off to the left, hitting a tree directly across from our steps and threw Eloise to the ground. Scurrying down the steps, I ran over to her and knelt down. There was blood all over and her leg and arm were bent in weird directions. Her eyes shut, I poked her and whispered, "Eloise, are you dead?" I looked up at our house, trying to wish Mama out. I looked around the ground. Gracious! Her purse was still on that crooked arm, but it was wide open and stuff was all over the ground. Dollar bills, an open wallet. Oh, there were those Luton cough drops. Kleenex. Picking the small pack up, I pulled out all that was left and gently patted the blood trickling down her forehead. Yikes! Her eyes halfway open, scaring me, so I fell over backwards. Jumping to my feet, I blurted out, "You're not dead! Why didn't you let go of that car, Eloise? Why?" She was saying something, but I could barely hear her. Kneeling down by her again, I listened carefully as a voice so faint said, "Get your mama." What? Was she crazy? No way I was going to my house and get the whipping of my life. No way! Sitting on the ground beside her, I explained, "No, ma'am. Mom and Nana are doing their work, and she said if I go back in, I'll get a big spanking. I'll take care of you until they're done." Looking at me with those now slit eyes, she again started to whisper. Leaning real close, she said, "I need to go to the hospital right now. Get your mama." Hospital? That got my attention. I'd had to go myself just last year, and I was very, very sick. If Eloise had to go there, the least I could do was take a spanking. I don't believe I've ever climbed those back porch steps that fast. My screaming started before I'd cleared the screen door. Mama, Eloise! Hurry, get an ambulance!" I don't remember much after that, as Mama had Leola take me upstairs at some point. I do remember hearing the sirens from the ambulance, and Leola and I watched as it turned into Bobby's driveway. Eloise was in the hospital for a long time. After she had been home a while, Mama told me one day that she'd asked to see me. I said no. I cried and ran up to my room every time she brought it up. I wouldn't even go over to see Bobby. To this day, I don't know what I was so afraid of. After several weeks, I gave in and went over with Mama. Bobby was already upstairs. I'd never climbed those stairs so slowly, stopping to each one to take a big breath. Mama had prepared me, saying that Eloise's leg and arm were in a cast, and she was in something called traction. Daddy had shown me pictures so I wouldn't be scared. We got to the top of the stairs, and Bobby was standing in the doorway to Eloise's bedroom. She walked out, arms open wide. "There you are, darling. Come give me a hug." Dropping Mama's hand, I ran and threw my arms around her. "Eloise has been waiting to see you. Come on in." The bedroom was just in front of us, and I could see Eloise, propped up on pillows, her leg all bandaged in white, hanging from a rope that went way up to the ceiling. One of her arms going all the way up to her shoulder was also bandaged and sat onto a lot of pillows. Eloise had a husky voice. There's my little hero. Come in, Penny, come on. Don't let all of this old stuff scare you. It's just to help me get better. Hello, Franny. Thank you so much for bringing her. Bobby had pulled a small chair up and told me to sit down. My fear had turned into fascination. Does it hurt, Eloise? Raising both eyebrows, she said, A little, but not as much as it did at first. I'm getting better every day. Do you know who I have to thank for that? Looking at the small loop screwed into the ceiling, I replied, No, ma'am. Do you have to sleep with your leg up in the air like that? Mama spoke up. Mind your manners, Penny. Eloise came to my defense. For heaven's sakes, Franny, she's just curious. What child wouldn't be? Penny, I wanted to thank you. Why, if you hadn't been out there that day, goodness knows how long it might have been before someone found me. You may have saved my life. Pushing up in my chair, I looked at her and said, I thought you were dead, you know. She smiled. Well, I've no doubt I probably look that way, but thanks to you, I'm not. Now I want you to have this from me, on the table right there, as a thank you. Then blow me a kiss. It's time for my nap. I looked on the table, and there sat an unopened box of Luden's cough drops. Eloise always had one handy to give us girls, but this was my very own box. Standing up, I blew her a kiss and said, Thank you, Eloise, and ran over to Mama. Wait, Penny, you left something. Come back. Confused, I walked back over and looked. There on the table sat a brand new, crisp $20 bill. I'd seen it, but I never dreamed that was for me. That was grown-up money. I'd gotten a $10 bill from Bobby the year I was 4, and I used to race her up the stairs, and I had money from that. But a $20 bill? Take it and have your mama take you to get something really special. I looked at Mama and she nodded okay. Blowing more kisses and saying multiple thank yous, I ran over and gave Bobby a hug goodbye. When we got home, Mama put my 20 in my jar in our secretary. It's where Catherine and I kept all our money that I was saving. I couldn't wait for her and Anne to come inside so that I could show them my new $20 bill and tell them, that's what you get when you save a life, and your very own box of Luden's cough drops. Baba and I tried our best to figure out how we could save lives from then on and make money. It sure paid more than picking up pecans or the tooth fairy. We finally asked Daddy. He said, That's not something you can plan, girls. Penny happened to be in the right place at the right time. Baba stuck her tongue out at me. She ran, me chasing her, and Daddy's familiar, though lost on us, saying, Don't slam that screen door, girls. We did. New adventures were waiting.